We've got more evidence. Apparently, the Chicago police superintendent has given an interview where he says there's actually more evidence than just what we've seen. And the most interesting thing about this, this is the Jussie Smollett story, by the way. I assume you know that by the title. A photo of the check. This is the check Jussie Smollett paid Abimbola Abel Osundairo to allegedly beat him on January 29th. He backdated it to January 23rd, according to police. Smollett labeled it 5-week nutrition workout program, but the brothers say it was for the attack. Now, hold on. We do know it was reported that he was a trainer. It's possible. This is real. Maybe these two brothers are lying. It's possible. I just don't think so. I really don't think so. But let's, I might have another story for you guys, but let's read through this and see what the hell's going on with the superintendent. So this is from the Daily Mail. Police chief in charge of Jussie Smollett investigation says there is more proof he staged the attack, as first photograph of the backdated $3,500 check he paid Nigerian brothers to beat him emerges. I got to stop right here. Guys, these dudes were born in Chicago, okay? It's been reported several times. They're American, but for some reason they keep calling them Nigerian brothers. I guess they have family from Nigeria, but they were born in America. That's my understanding. The police chief in charge of the investigation into Jussie Smollett's alleged hoax attack said on Monday that there was more evidence which incriminates him on top of the mountain of proof that has already been made public. Superintendent Eddie T. Johnson appeared on Good Morning America on Monday to defend the Chicago Police Department's investigation into the attack and double down on his condemnation of Smollett. And I gotta say, I didn't watch the whole interview, but I have a lot of respect for the superintendent because he straight up addresses the problems that the Chicago Police Department has, police brutality, excessive force. These things have been big in the news. We've got a big scandal involving a man who was shot several times, and he acknowledged it. He did. They know they're not perfect. In fact, I think the Chicago PD is awful for the most part. But it doesn't change the fact just because the police are bad, it doesn't mean this is untrue. I would say Chicago police doesn't have a good history of telling the truth in a lot of circumstances, so I will presume innocence here, but come on. I really think this was a hoax. 99.9%. He batted away the Empire's claim that the check for the brothers he allegedly paid to attack him was for personal training and said there was surveillance footage, physical evidence, and testimony that proves it was a hoax, which is yet to be presented. He still has the presumption of evidence, innocent, and he'll get his opportunity in court if he chooses to go that route, Johnson said, rejecting Smollett's lawyer's claim that he had been unfairly vilified by the police department and prosecutor's office. I can tell you this. There's a lot more evidence that has not been presented yet that does not support his version of the incident. Sure, but my understanding is that in terms of prosecution, they're going to have to reveal what their evidence is to the defense, so it'll very likely be made public. But I do have to say, the accusations made by police, it's like, come on, man. They're claiming that he shows up 15 hours before the attack and points to the camera he wants them to attack him by. There was a witness nearby who didn't hear any yelling. Story doesn't check out either way. He says there is still a lot of physical evidence, video evidence, and testimony that simply does not support his version. It's not the Chicago PD saying he did something, it's the evidence, the facts, and the witnesses saying this. Johnson, who eviscerated the Empire star during a press conference last week after he was arrested, said he was careful throughout the investigation not to jump to the conclusion that Smollett was involved, despite growing suspicion among detectives. I refuse to let Chicago Police Department categorize him as a suspect until we had solid evidence. They played the slow game. They definitely did. There's some more reporting, too, that the FBI, I believe, is saying they don't think, or that the police jumped the gun when they claimed Smollett may have sent the letter to himself. That doesn't mean he wasn't involved in orchestrating the letter. I think, the reporting I've seen for this seems to be coming from left-wing sources that just give us that information. Oh, the FBI says they're jumping the gun by claiming he sent the letter to himself. So, okay. Or he paid someone to send the letter to him. Someone else sent it. You see what I'm saying? Johnson also said that he was actually aware of the police department's reputation for being racist, which Smollett supporters have invoked in their defense of him, but that it played no role in his investigation. Something like this can be really damaging. We have made a lot of progress in the last 3 years in terms of race relations. We're heading in the right direction in terms, but are we where we want to be? Of course not. Now, here's what's really fucked up, in my opinion. Chicago does have a lot of work to do to repair race relations. The city I grew up in, it's segregated to a ridiculous degree. Where I grew up, there was actually a street that's a dividing line between the mostly white but kind of mixed race neighborhood and just straight black community, right? It was 47th Street. And everything south of 47th on the south side where I lived it was like Polish immigrants. It was a lot of Latinos, some Asian immigrants, and mostly like lower class white people. You cross 47th, the neighborhood is all entirely black. And to me, it's like, I don't know. I grew up in this environment in Chicago, recognizing just how people have, I mean, they do it to themselves for the most part, right? Like people choose to live in these neighborhoods for certain reasons. And it's like people self-segregate. I could be wrong. I don't believe that there was a law or anything that forced people to live where they are, at least in today's generation. But I will recognize that practices that went up into the 80s, like blockbusting, redlining, which comes from Chicago, actually helped to make things really, really bad. The point I'm trying to say is Chicago's really bad. Segregation is really, really bad. Some people still choose to self-segregate, but Chicago has a lot to do to solve these problems. With Jussie Smollett coming out and saying this happened, the police were under extreme pressure to solve this crime and figure out what really happened. And I assure you, if it turned out that it really was, two Trump supporting white supremacists, the police would have come out and said that because they want to be on the side of social justice. But I have another story that I want to bring up because I feel like I've beat the Smollett story like beating a dead horse. But we have this is from USA Today. I saw Andy Ngo tweeted this. If you're familiar with Andy on Twitter, it's Andy NGO. That's his last name. He was compiling a bunch of hate crime hoaxes, and I think he went on Fox News, but he tweeted this story out, which I found interesting. Hate crime hoaxes like Jussie Smollett's alleged attack are more common than you think. And I see a lot of people saying, they're trying to do the math. They're claiming it's not real. They're claiming that hate crime hoaxes are a tiny percentage. Listen, yesterday I made a video about somebody who took chalk, sidewalk chalk, and they drew a bunch of stupid Nazi things all over a park in a Jewish area. They called that a hate crime. That's being included in the increase in hate crimes. People drawing things with chalk. It's ridiculous. I think someone should come out with a hose and spray it off the ground and be done with it. But this gets included in those statistics. So when we're talking about the increase in hate crimes, what the left immediately imagines in their head is a bunch of like Trump supporters cracking their knuckles holding nooses. When in reality, it could be like a 15-year-old kid of any race thinking he's funny and drawing stupid things on the ground with sidewalk chalk. Or in many circumstances, a hoax perpetrated by somebody who's just trying to get attention. So we have this story. In writing a book about hate crime hoaxes, I found more than 400 such frauds damage good race relations. They say Smollett's story was bizarre, bordering on the absurd. He claimed to have been attacked at 2 a.m. in Chicago by two men, in some early reports, wearing red MAGA hats, who called him that empire N-word, yelled, "This is MAGA country," and poured bleach on him while putting a noose around his neck. The questions here are obvious. How many Trump supporters even exist in the downtown of a city that went 83% for Hillary Clinton? And how many of them watch Empire? How many guys looking for a fight carry rope and bottles of bleach around with them? Almost every normal citizen had questions like these about the incident, and we were justified in having them. But I do want to point something out that I mentioned in early videos. It seems like everyone's operating under the assumption that it was a random attack. If it's true that Jussie Smollett received a letter in the mail threatening him, maybe somebody does watch Empire and doesn't like him and was stalking him. It's like, there you go. I don't think that's true. I think the police have really laid out a very important case and made some definitive statements that I don't think the police lied. Look, the police lied for sure. Don't get me wrong. They lie under oath. I filmed an incident in New York where they wrongfully arrested somebody, and the officer who arrested him lied under oath in court. And then they presented evidence, video footage from me, and got this guy exonerated. They claimed he was obstructing a roadway. He was just a photographer on the sidewalk. No punishment, no penalties. I get it. I know they do. But they don't lie in like, we have video footage of him doing a thing, because that has to be presented. So they can make the claim that he paid. It is their assertion that Smollett paid the two brothers, but the check does say nutrition. The point is, it's not just one thing. It's grains of sand that form a heap. In my opinion, Smollett, full on hoax. I mean, come on. So he says, doing research for a book, Hate Crime Hoax, I was able to easily put together a data set of 409 confirmed hate hoaxes. An overlapping but substantially different list of the 348 hoaxes exists at fakehatecrimes.org. There's also fake hate map, which someone sent me. And researcher Laird Wilcox put together another list of 300 in his still contemporary book, Crying Wolf. To put these numbers in context, a little over 7,000 hate crimes were reported by the FBI in 2017, and perhaps 8 to 10% of these are widely reported enough to catch the eye of a national researcher. Why do hoaxers hoax? In some cases, the motivations are tawdry and financial. Jussie Smollett allegedly wanted to make himself a sympathetic figure to boost his salary. However, the motivations of many hoaxers are honorable if misguided. In college campus hate hoax cases, Keene College of Chicago, the individuals responsible almost invariably say they staged incidents to call attention to real incidents of racist violence on campus. Certainly, the media giants that leap to publicize hate crime stories later revealed to be fakes, and the organizations that line up to defend their victims, the Southern Poverty Law Center, Black Lives Matter, CARE, think that they are providing a public service by fighting bigotry. Yes, they live in a psychotic realm of insane. It's a mirror reflection. It's two mirrors in front of each other. Somebody stands up and, punches himself in the eye and says, I was a victim. There. Now people will actually focus on real victims. Someone sees that and go, oh my God, this person was attacked. Punches themselves in the eye and says, I was attacked too. Now people will finally care. Then someone goes and burns down a church and goes, maybe now people will pay attention to those two crimes. It's like a reflection of a reflection. Yes, hate crimes are real. The overwhelming majority of them are real. But the idea that you can draw attention to these things by victimizing yourself and lying about it is not true. I feel like people don't actually pay attention or don't actually think about the ramifications of their actions. So, look, the police are giving their statements. It's going to be, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks, like 3 weeks, until the next moves in Jussie Smollett's story, in his case. We'll see if he pleads out, if he goes to trial. It's going to be really interesting. But I will say, if he has no choice, really, but to go to trial, because his life is over. Right now, everyone believes it was a hoax. He staged this. It really does make the most sense. And if he pleads out, he's done. Anyway, I'm gonna stop there. I got another video coming up at 1 p.m. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you then.